The desperate word rang through the narrow hallway of David Miller's home the moment he opened the front door. It was late evening, the sky painted in streaks of fading orange and violet, and the air still carried the faint smell of motor oil from David's long shift at the auto shop. He rubbed his tired eyes, certain he had misheard. But no, the voice was real. Standing on his small porch was a young woman, maybe 19 or 20, her shoulders sagging beneath the weight of two overstuffed suitcases. Her hair was a little messy, strands falling across her flushed cheeks, and her eyes, though tired, burned with a determined light. I saw your ad online, she stammered, trying to catch her breath. You're renting out a room, right? David blinked. The question hung in the air for a moment. He wasn't used to strangers appearing at his doorstep, let alone young women looking like they had just run away from somewhere important. His chest tightened. Yes, he answered cautiously, stepping aside. Come in. The girl shuffled inside, grateful, her shoes scuffing against the wooden floor. She set her bags down with a heavy thud, looking around the modest living room. It was small but warm. Family photos lined the walls, a second-hand couch sat against one side, and in the corner, a few of Lily's toys were scattered. Lily, as if on cue, David's 10-year-old daughter appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes from where she'd been working on her homework. She peeked at the stranger curiously. Daddy, who's that? She whispered. This is... David looked at the girl expectantly. The young woman supplied quickly. Just Emma. I'm starting college nearby, and, I needed a safe place to stay. Her words sounded rehearsed, almost too neat, as if she'd practiced them before coming. But David didn't pry. He was a single dad, trying to hold life together with duct tape and willpower after his wife passed away 3 years ago. Money was tight. Every month, the bills stacked higher than his paychecks. Renting out the spare room had been a desperate solution, one he'd posted online with little hope anyone would respond. And yet here she was. All right, Emma, David said finally. The room's upstairs. It's not much, but it's yours if you want it. Relief washed across her face. Thank you, she whispered, as though those 2 words carried the weight of her entire world. Within the hour, Emma moved in. She carried her bags upstairs without complaint, thanked him again for the key, and disappeared into her room. David should have felt cautious. A stranger under his roof? Around his daughter? But there was something about Emma, something unspoken, that told him she wasn't dangerous. She was running from something, yes, but not toward harm. Still, what David didn't know, what no one in that quiet street could have guessed, was that Emma wasn't just any college student. She wasn't broke. She wasn't ordinary. She was the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in the city. And she was hiding. Emma settled into their small home faster than David expected. The first few days were quiet. She mostly kept to herself, unpacking, organizing her books, and walking to the college campus nearby. But slowly, she started weaving herself into the rhythm of their household. It began with Lily. One afternoon, David came home from the shop to find his daughter sitting at the kitchen table, her math book open, her pencil tapping nervously. Beside her sat Emma, patiently explaining fractions in a way that actually made Lily smile. See, Emma said gently, sketching little circles on a scrap of paper. If you split the pizza into 4 parts and eat 2, that's 2/4 or 1/2. Easy. Lily's face lit up. That actually makes sense. David froze in the doorway, stunned. For months, he had tried to help Lily with her homework, but he often ended up frustrated, his exhaustion from long work hours spilling over. Seeing Emma's kindness brought a warmth he hadn't felt in years. From then on, Emma became more than just a tenant. She started cooking simple dinners with David, though she clearly wasn't used to a kitchen. One night, she tried to fry chicken, and the smoke alarm went off, sending Lily into giggles as David waved a dish towel at the ceiling. You're supposed to cook the chicken. She always paid her rent in crisp, folded cash, never a check, never a card. And once, late at night, David walked past her half-open door and glimpsed her holding a framed photograph. In it, Emma was younger, standing beside a man in a perfectly tailored designer suit. His hand rested on her shoulder, his smile polished but stern. Something about him tugged at David's memory, though he couldn't place it at the time. Still, he didn't push. After all, Emma had been nothing but kind. She brought joy back into Lily's world, and that was something David would never take for granted. One Saturday afternoon, the 3 of them were sitting in the living room, the air filled with laughter as they played a board game. Out of nowhere, Lily tugged on Emma's hand and said softly, "I wish you were my sister." Emma froze. Her smile didn't fade, but her eyes glistened with something unspoken, longing, sadness, maybe both. She hugged Lily gently, whispering, "That means more to me than you know." David watched them quietly. He couldn't shake the feeling that Emma carried a secret, one bigger than anything he had imagined. But as Lily's laughter echoed through the room, he decided not to ask. Not yet. The taller man's voice cut through the night like a blade. "Miss Caldwell, your father demands your return. Now." Emma's hands trembled as she glanced at David. Her wide eyes shimmered with fear, and her lips parted as if she wanted to protest, but no sound came out. Behind the curtains, Lily peeked nervously from the living room window, clutching her stuffed rabbit to her chest. The little girl didn't understand everything, but she could feel the tension pressing on the house like a storm about to break. David's jaw tightened. He wasn't a rich man. He wasn't powerful. But he knew one thing for certain. No one was going to intimidate his daughter, or the young woman who had become like family to them. He stepped forward, planting himself squarely between Emma and the suited men. "You're not taking her," David said, his voice firm. "Not unless she wants to go." One of the men scoffed. "Do you even know who you're talking to? Her father could buy and sell you 100 times over. This is none of your concern." David didn't flinch. Money doesn't give you the right to control someone's life. He turned slightly, meeting Emma's tear-filled eyes. "Emma stays if she wants." End of story. The bodyguards exchanged dark looks, clearly unaccustomed to resistance from ordinary people. But something in David's unyielding posture made them hesitate. The moment the car disappeared down the street, Emma's knees buckled. She sank onto the porch steps, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook as sobs finally broke free. David crouched beside her, uncertain. He had never been good with words, but something about seeing her so broken tore at him. "Hey," he said softly. "You're safe here. Nobody's going to make you do anything you don't want to." Emma lifted her head slowly, her eyes red. "You don't understand, David. My father, he doesn't just tell me what to do. He decides everything. Where I study, who I see, who I'm supposed to marry." Her voice cracked. "He had already arranged a future for me, and I couldn't breathe anymore. That's why I ran." For a long moment, silence hung between them. David thought about his own life, about losing his wife, about raising Lily alone, about fighting every single day just to keep food on the table. He knew what it meant to struggle, to feel powerless. But looking at Emma, he realized she carried a different kind of prison. Hers wasn't made of poverty. It was made of wealth, control, and expectations. And somehow, he felt the same duty toward her as he did toward his daughter. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Emma, listen to me. Whatever your past is, whatever your father wants, you're welcome here for as long as you need. You hear me? This is your home, too." Her lips trembled, and fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of despair, they were tears of relief. For the first time in years, Emma felt truly safe. Inside the house, Lily tiptoed toward the doorway, her stuffed rabbit in hand. "Daddy," she whispered, "is Emma gonna stay?" David looked at Emma and smiled gently. "Yeah, kiddo, she's staying." And though none of them could see it yet, that choice would change all their lives forever. 3 days passed after the confrontation on the porch. Life inside the Miller home tried to return to normal, but an uneasy silence hung in the air. Emma jumped at every unexpected knock, and David caught her staring out the window more often than not, as if expecting the black car to return. But on the 4th day, it wasn't bodyguards who arrived. It was a limousine. The vehicle rolled slowly to a stop in front of the modest house, its polished surface reflecting the late afternoon sun. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering about what kind of important person would show up on their quiet street. The back door opened, and out stepped Richard Caldwell himself. He was taller than David expected, broad-shouldered, his salt and pepper hair slicked back neatly. His tailored suit looked like it cost more than David's entire living room set. And yet, when David saw his face, he didn't see arrogance, he saw worry. Deep, bone-deep worry etched into every line. David braced himself as the man approached the door. Lily tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, who's that?" He placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Stay with Emma, sweetheart." Inside the living room, The air grew thick with tension. Emma stood frozen as her father entered, her arms wrapped around herself. "Emma," Richard said, his voice low but steady. "Why? Why would you run away like this?" Tears welled in her eyes instantly. "Because I couldn't breathe, Dad. Every part of my life has been decided for me. What school I go to, who I'm friends with, even who I'm supposed to marry someday. I just wanted to know what it felt like to live for myself. To be normal." Richard's stern mask faltered. His lips parted as if he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. He turned his gaze to David, almost as if searching for answers. "And you," he said finally. "You took her in?" David didn't shrink under his stare. "She needed help. That's all. I didn't know who she was when she showed up, but honestly, it wouldn't have mattered." Richard was silent for a long time. He looked around the modest home, the scuffed coffee table, the stack of bills on the counter, the toys scattered in the corner. It was so far removed from the marble floors and chandeliers of his world. And yet, his daughter looked lighter here, happier. Finally, Richard exhaled a long, weary sigh. "Maybe I forgot something along the way. Maybe I forgot that my daughter isn't just part of my empire. She's her own person." Emma's lips trembled as she stepped closer. "So you'll let me stay?" He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "If this is what you want, Emma, if you want to study, to live like this, I won't stop you." Relief flooded her face, and for the first time since he arrived, she smiled through her tears. Before leaving, Richard extended his hand to David. "Thank you. You've given my daughter something I couldn't, freedom." David shook it firmly, humbled but resolute. "All I did was open a door." The limousine drove away, leaving behind a hush that felt strangely peaceful. Emma turned to David and Lily, her eyes still wet, but filled with a brightness that hadn't been there before. "You know what?" she whispered, her voice catching. "I think I've finally found a real family here." David smiled softly, pulling Lily close. And in that small, worn-down house, 3 broken lives began to knit themselves back together, not through wealth or power, but through something far stronger: love.